Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat Daily Stand-Up. My name's Stuart Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. It is just absolutely crazy out there, and I hope you really enjoyed last night's presidential speech to the joint session of the House and Senate. I know I enjoyed watching the Democrats fall apart and sit on their hands. You cannot buy that kind of entertainment. Let's go ahead and go to our first story here. David Blackmon, Trump zeroes in on American energy and congressional speech. I'm going to be covering that here in just a minute. Next story is what Europe can do if Trump drops sanctions. And following up, Texas seeks a balance of AI growth and grid security. They're getting ahead of that curve. Here's one for is net zero worth the price? I'm not sure if you want to admit to that one or not, but and then one of the others coming around the corner, U.S. crude stockpiles climb as oil prices tumble below 70. That's based off of some things going on around the world and a little bit of shock on Trump's tariff reform there. Let's start with David Blackmon. Trump zeroes in on the American energy congressional speech last night. I, for one, really liked it. Here's a quote out of it. And this article from David Blackmon was in the Daily Caller, an outstanding article. Upon taking office, I imposed immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on the new federal regulations, Trump said early on. And I terminated the religious new green scam. I withdraw from the unfair Paris Climate Accord, which is costing us trillions of dollars and other countries were not paying. We ended all of Biden's environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto workers and companies from economic destruction. I think people need to also realize that he's encouraging building machines here. So he's actually encouraging Musk to build electronic cars. So you'd actually make a choice. Do you want an electric car? Buy a Tesla. I'm all in. And so I think that it is absolutely doing wonderful on that. It was kind of funny. He also said last night I have a message for the wonderful people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States. That's right about the time when he said, oh, by the way, we're now taking control of the Panama Canal. And sure enough, it looks like BlackRock and a few others have bought those ports on each end of the Panama Canal that China had gotten control of. And I think President Trump is delivering on his word. That should have never been given away for $1. And it should be a win-win for Panama people as well as the American people. But we'll see how that rolls out. Let's go to what can Europe do if Trump drops sanctions? In Trump's second term, U.S. Donald Trump doubles down on plans to ink a deal with Russian Vladimir Putin over Ukraine. The Western sanctions lie in the ability of Western and Washington and Europe to leverage the prominence of the U.S. dollar. But as we get into later down into this article, Europe's trade leverage over Russia is perhaps greater when it comes to Moscow exports, mostly hydrocarbons, and this is not true in this article. In this field, the Kremlin shot itself in the foot by curbing gas shipments to the bloc in 2022. That's not necessarily how it came out as well either. Europe's energy leverage over Russia also extends to oil shipments. This article is missing some key points, and this author, let's see who the author is. It's by Agatha Demetrius, a columnist at Foreign Policy, and she's really not understanding that Russia has actually gained 4% in their last year, even with sanctions, because President Putin has gone out and found new markets in Asia, India, Asia. He's still selling all the oil that he can produce and all the natural gas. And Europe is buying his LNG, though, and they're also buying his natural gas via the Turk Stream pipeline. Now, what happens if President Trump does fire up the Nord Stream? I've said this for a while. There's rumors running around out there. Don't know if any of them are true or not. I'd find it interesting if President Trump did buy Nord Stream or if an American company and he helped broker the deal, because then he could help get Germany back on its feet. Without the low cost natural gas, Germany is really handicapped in the business world, and you're going to see a lot of businesses in Germany fail if the end of this war does not happen soon. Let's go to Texas. Texas seeks a balance of AI growth and grid security. Texas is projected to need the equivalent of 30 nuclear reactor plants by 2030 to meet the electricity demands of new data centers. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, has received requests for new grid connections that far exceed current capacity, posting reliability risk. Concerns are about the total cost of infrastructure expansion and how it will be distributed among different consumers. This is very interesting, especially when you consider that the new Stargate AI data center in Abilene, Texas has its own natural gas power plant. Now, I've been going through the numbers, and as of last week, I was looking at the numbers and it looked like Texas was capable of meeting its demand with its budgets and natural gas. Now, would it need some nuclear in the after 5 years from now? Absolutely, but it's going to be a lot longer than 5 years to get some nuclear power plants onto the grid. So fortunately, they have the capability and the budget right now for throwing up a lot of natural gas power plants. So ERCOT said it's gotten requests to 99 gigawatts for new connections from the year from big power users, including data centers, Bitcoin miners, and hydrogen producers, according to an internal grid presentation. That's up from 40.8 gigawatts last March. Holy smokes. People want to go to Texas. Why do people want to go to Texas? It's not just for the cowboy hat, even though I look pretty good in mine. But when you sit back and take a look, it's the overall business environment is good there. And we do have a problem with a lot of Texas politicians in the Texas House as well as in the U.S. Congress from Texas, having left leaning people in Congress. We need to start voting them out. They're not Texicans and they don't act like it. That's just my personal opinion. But well, let's go on to the next story here. Is net zero worth the price? The UK's net zero efforts have conceded with a decline in electricity availability and a rise in energy prices. Isn't that a shock? Impacting both businesses and consumers. They are deindustrializing right now. Starmer is leading them off of a cliff like a lemming. The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, repeats a mantra every opportunity. Clean energy and net zero equals good job and economic growth. And I don't know what he's smoking, but it is not tobacco. He is echoed in this article by faith by an entire industry, and the people in private spheres have thrown their lot in with clean energy drive, whether through opportunism or conviction. But what if they're all wrong? He concludes that the UK's decarbonization efforts so far resulted in weak economic growth and high energy prices, stagnant productivity, and no significant impact on global emissions. That sounds like somebody's been listening to our podcast, or maybe not. But it's kind of fun when you sit back and take a look at it. Net zero in its current technological state is not going to happen. Now, is it going to happen someday? It might, but we've got to have some new technology. U.S. crude stockpiles. Our last story today. Stockpiles climb as oil prices tumble below $70. I just want to give Steve Reese and his folks a shout out. Steve has sent me a note. And they've got some fantastic things going on out there, and it is incredible. If you are a data center, if you are in the business of looking for a power plant, I would contact Reese Consulting, Steve Reese, or reeseenergyconsulting.com. Go out and check them out now. They can do cradle to grave solutions and consulting, and they are very important in the United States energy markets right now. In fact, I'm so thrilled to have gotten to talk to Steve about even his Germany endeavor, where he can guarantee LNG from the field all the way to Germany. It's pretty darn cool. But this story, U.S. crude stockpiles climb as oil prices tumble below 70 bucks. This is off of Oil Price by Julian Geiger over at Oil Price. Crude oil inventories in the United States saw an increase of 3.6 million barrels during the week ending February 28th from the United States Information Administration, the EIA. Crude oil prices were down considerably. And for middle distillates, the EIA estimates inventory decrease of 1.3 million barrel for the last week, production averaging 5.2 million barrels daily. This compares to the inventory increase of 3.9 million barrels for the week prior. Total product supplied over the last 4 weeks decreased to an average of 20.2 million barrels per day. Excuse me, a 3.4 increase over this time last year. So I think that we are going to be seeing some really, I wouldn't want to bet on things right now because we don't know how the markets are going to play out. Because as President Trump weeds through the tariff war right sizing, I'm calling them tariff right sizing because the rest of the world has been tariffing the United States and we're just now starting to tariff them. This is called right sizing. And I really respect President Trump for what he said. Bear with me, it could be a little bumpy. I'll deal with a little bit of bump to get some right sizing, and with everything that he's got going on, I'll tell you what, I couldn't be happier. This is exactly what I voted for. We do appreciate all of our great listeners. If you want to find out more information, go to the energynewsbeat.substack.com, go to energynewsbeat.co or .com, and we really want to hear from you. Check it out. And if you are an industry leader, please reach out. I'd love to interview you on the podcast. Just finished out a fun one with about the Landman episode with a Landman movie producer and David Blackman. It was a lot of fun. Doug Sandridge and Mark Stransberry. So, Eddie, have a great day. We will talk to you guys soon.